He told everyone I was the villain, then I spilled his secrets over coffee. The truth hit harder than his lies ever could. For 2 years, I wore the scarlet letter of our divorce like a noose. Ethan, my ex-husband, spun a tale so convincing that even our small town of Willow Creek believed I was the one who shattered our perfect marriage. He painted me as the cold, neglectful wife who drove him away with my endless demands and emotional distance. Friends stopped calling. Neighbors whispered behind their curtains. My own mother questioned me, her voice soft but probing, as if she too doubted my side of the story. I swallowed the humiliation, thinking silence was strength, until the day his lies threatened to cost me everything: my job, my dignity, my future. It started small, like most disasters do. Ethan and I met in college, young and drunk on the idea of forever. He was charming, with a smile that could sell ice to a glacier, and I was the quiet art major who believed in his promises. We married at 23, built a life in Willow Creek, and for a while it was good. A cozy house, shared dreams of a family, and lazy Sundays cooking pancakes together. But cracks formed early: his late nights at the office, his curt dismissals when I asked questions, the way his eyes lingered too long on other women. I ignored it, convincing myself it was stress, that love meant patience. By year 5, I wasn't his wife anymore. I was his shadow, trailing behind a man who only loved himself. The first real blow came when I found the texts. Not from another woman, but worse: messages to his friends mocking me. Clingy, he called me. Obsessed with her stupid paintings. I confronted him, and he laughed it off, gaslighting me into believing I was overreacting. But the texts kept coming, each one a knife to my trust. Then there were the credit card bills, charges for dinners I never ate, hotels I never slept in. When I asked, he'd scream about my insecurity, turning every argument into my fault. I started doubting my own sanity, checking my reflection to see if I was still the woman he married or some broken version I didn't recognize. The divorce was inevitable, but Ethan controlled the narrative. He told everyone I'd grown distant, that I'd pushed him away with my unreasonable expectations. He played the wounded hero, the man who tried to save a failing marriage while I apparently gave up. Willow Creek ate it up. At the grocery store, Mrs. Harper, our old neighbor, gave me a pitying look and said, "It's such a shame you couldn't make it work." My boss at the art gallery, where I curated local exhibits, hinted that my personal drama was affecting my work. Even my best friend Lila started pulling away, her texts growing shorter, her invites non-existent. Ethan's lies were a slow poison, seeping into every corner of my life. The breaking point came last month. I was up for a promotion at the Galleria, chance to lead a regional art initiative, a dream I'd worked toward for years. But whispers reached my boss that I was unstable, a rumor traced back to Ethan's casual comments at a town fundraiser. He told a group of locals I was spiraling after the divorce, implying I was unfit for responsibility. I lost the promotion. That night, alone in my tiny apartment, I stared at the walls covered in my half-finished paintings and realized silence wasn't strength, it was surrender. I decided to fight back, but not with screams or public rants. I needed an ally, someone Ethan couldn't charm or manipulate. That's when I thought of Sarah, his older sister. Sarah was his opposite: grounded, kind, the family's moral compass. She'd always been warm to me, but Ethan kept us at arm's length during our marriage, claiming Sarah was too busy for family dinners. I suspected he didn't want her seeing through his facade. Now, with nothing left to lose, I texted her, asking to meet for coffee at the Rusty Mug, the only neutral ground in town. Sarah arrived first, her auburn hair tied back, her smile tentative but genuine. She hugged me, and for a moment I felt like the old Emily, the one who believed in second chances. We ordered lattes and I wasted no time. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest, "Ethan's been lying about me. About us. I need you to know the truth." Her eyes widened, but she nodded, leaning forward. I told her everything, the texts, the gaslighting, the financial secrets. I showed her screenshots I'd saved, receipts I'd kept, proof of his double life. Sarah's face shifted from confusion to horror, her hands trembling around her coffee cup. Then Ethan walked in. I hadn't planned for him to show up, but there he was, striding through the door like he owned the place. His eyes locked on us, and his smile faltered for a split second before he recovered, sauntering over. "Well, this is cozy," he said, his voice dripping with mock charm. "What's this about, Em? Dragging my sister into your drama?" Sarah's gaze hardened, but he didn't notice, too busy playing the victim. He pulled up a chair, uninvited, and leaned back, arms crossed as if daring me to speak. I didn't hesitate. "Ethan, you've spent 2 years blaming me for our divorce, telling everyone I was the problem. But you forgot to mention the truth." I slid my phone across the table, opened to a screenshot of his text to a coworker, bragging about how he'd dodged a bullet by leaving me, calling me names I wouldn't repeat. Sarah's breath hitched as she read. I kept going, my voice rising, years of pent-up pain spilling out. "You lied about the money, Ethan. Thousands in secret accounts while I scraped by. You lied about the late nights, the trips. You lied about who you are." Ethan's face turned red, his jaw tight. "You're delusional," he snapped, but his voice cracked, betraying him. Sarah stared at him, her eyes narrowing. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice low, dangerous. Ethan stammered, trying to deflect, but I wasn't done. I pulled out the credit card statements, the ones I'd found buried in our old joint account, showing charges for luxury hotels and jewelry I'd never seen. "Explain this," I said, tossing them on the table. The coffee shop went quiet, patrons glancing over, sensing the storm. Sarah's hand shook as she picked up the papers. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Ethan, you told me she was the one who mismanaged the money. You said she was reckless." Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came. For the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Sarah turned to me, tears welling. "Emily, I had no idea. He told me he told everyone you were the one who fell apart." The air felt electric, every word a spark. Ethan tried to stand, muttering about misunderstandings, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "Sit down," she said, her voice steel. She turned to me, her face a mix of guilt and resolve. "Tell me everything." And I did. For the next hour, I laid bare every betrayal, every lie, every moment I'd swallowed to keep the peace. Ethan squirmed, his charm crumbling like cheap plaster. Sarah listened, her silence more powerful than any outburst. When I finished, Sarah stood, her chair scraping the floor. She looked at Ethan, her brother, the man she'd defended for years. "You're my blood," she said, her voice breaking. "But you're a liar. And I'm done protecting you." She turned to me, her eyes fierce with something new, solidarity. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have asked." Ethan's face twisted, a mix of rage and desperation. "You're both crazy," he spat, standing so fast his chair tipped over. He stormed out, leaving a spilled coffee cup in his wake, the dark liquid dripping onto the floor like the wreckage of his lies. The coffee shop patrons stared, but I didn't care. For the first time in years I felt free. Sarah and I stayed talking until the shop closed. She promised to set the record straight with the family, to confront Ethan publicly at the next town event. Word spread fast in Willow Creek. By the next week, Ethan's story unraveled. Friends texted apologies. My boss called, offering a second chance at the promotion. The whispers in town shifted, now aimed at Ethan, who avoided eye contact at the grocery store. But the real victory wasn't the town's approval. It was Sarah's hand in mine as we left the coffee shop, her promise to stand by me, and the weight of silence finally lifted. Ethan's lies had built a cage, but the truth, sharp, unyielding, set me free. And as I walked home that night, I knew I wasn't the villain anymore. I was the woman who fought back and won. The days following that coffee shop showdown felt like waking from a long, suffocating dream. Willow Creek, once a maze of judgmental glances and hushed gossip, began to shift. Sarah kept her word. At the town's annual Harvest Festival, where Ethan usually played the charming local hero, she took the stage during the community announcements. Her voice, steady but raw, carried over the crowd as she spoke about accountability, about family, about truth. Without naming me directly, she dismantled Ethan's narrative, calling out someone close who'd hurt others with lies. The crowd knew. Eyes darted to Ethan, who stood at the back, his face pale, his usual swagger gone. He left before the speech ended, and for once the whispers followed him, not me. But freedom came with a price. Exposing Ethan stirred a storm I hadn't anticipated. His friends, loyal to his charm and blind to his flaws, rallied to his defense. At the gallery, where I'd just reclaimed my footing, a few of Ethan's old buddies stopped by, not to buy art but to confront me. "You're tearing him down to feel better," one sneered, his voice loud enough to turn heads. I held my ground, my hand steady as I explained the exhibition to a customer, ignoring their taunts. Inside, though, my heart raced. I'd won a battle, but the war wasn't over. Sarah became my anchor. We met weekly, sometimes at the Rusty Mug, sometimes at her house, where we'd sit on her porch with glasses of wine, unraveling the years we'd lost to Ethan's manipulation. She shared stories of their childhood, how Ethan always craved attention, how he'd twist truths even as a kid to get his way. "I should have seen it," she said one evening, staring at the sunset. "He kept you at a distance because he knew I'd call him out." Her guilt was palpable, but so was her resolve. She started reaching out to mutual friends, correcting the lies Ethan had fed them. Slowly, my old life, or a better version of it, began to resurface. The gallery became my sanctuary. With the promotion back on the table, I threw myself into curating a new exhibit, one focused on local women artists. It was personal, a way to reclaim my voice through the work I loved. But Ethan's shadow lingered. He'd started a smear campaign online, posting vague, self-pitying rants on social media about toxic exes and false accusations. A few locals, still loyal to him, left snide comments on the gallery's page, questioning my professionalism. One even called me a vindictive liar. I wanted to scream, to post every screenshot, every receipt, but Sarah stopped me. "Don't stoop to his level," she said. "Let the truth do its work." She was right, but it was hard. The gallery's board noticed the online noise, and my boss, Mr. Callahan, called me into his office. He was a kind man, nearing 60, with a no-nonsense approach to business. "Emily," he said, leaning back in his chair, "I don't care about small-town gossip. Your work speaks for itself. But this dramate's a distraction. Handle it." His words were a lifeline and a warning. I had to end this, not just for me but for the life I was rebuilding. I decided to confront Ethan one last time, not in anger but with clarity. I texted him, asking to meet at the park near our old house, a neutral place, open, where he couldn't hide behind a crowd. He agreed, probably thinking he could charm his way out again. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting on a bench, his posture casual but his eyes wary. "What's this about, Em?" he asked, his voice laced with that familiar condescension. "You've already done enough damage." I took a deep breath, the autumn air sharp in my lungs. "This isn't about damage, Ethan. It's about truth. You blame me for everything, our marriage, the divorce, your own choices. But I'm done carrying your lies." I handed him a folder, thin but heavy, with evidence, bank statements, text logs, emails he'd sent to his lawyer claiming I was unstable. His face froze as he flipped through it. "This goes to the town council, your boss, and every friend you've lied to unless you stop," I said. "No more posts. No more whispers. Own what you did, or this does it for you." He laughed, but it was hollow, his hands shaking as he closed the folder. "You think you're so righteous. he spat. "You're nothing without me." Those words, once a dagger, now felt like air. I saw him for what he was, a man clinging to a crumbling throne of lies. "I was everything despite you," I replied, turning to walk away. For the first time I didn't look back. The fallout was swift. Ethan's posts stopped. His friends, faced with the evidence Sarah quietly shared, began to distance themselves. At the gallery's exhibit opening, the town showed up not just for the art, but for me. Mrs. Harper, the neighbor who'd once pitied me, bought one of my paintings, her eyes soft with apology. Lila, my old friend, hugged me so tightly I couldn't breathe, whispering, "I was wrong. I should have listened." Even Mr. Callahan clapped me on the shoulder, his gruff voice warm. "You did good, kid. This is your night." But the real triumph came weeks later, at a community meeting. Ethan, cornered by the truth, stood up to speak. His voice cracked as he admitted to mistakes, though he couldn't bring himself to say my name. It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough. The room was silent, not with judgment but with understanding. People saw him differently now, not as the golden boy, but as a man who'd hurt someone they'd wronged by believing. Sarah caught my eye from across the room, her nod a quiet victory. I started painting again, not just for the gallery but for myself. My apartment walls filled with colors: blues for healing, reds for strength, golds for hope. I reconnected with friends, hosted dinners, laughed without checking over my shoulder. Ethan faded into the background, a ghost of a past I no longer feared. Sarah and I grew closer, not just as allies, but as sisters in a way neither of us expected. She helped me see that my worth wasn't tied to Ethan's lies or the town's approval. It was mine. Always had been. Looking back, I realized the truth wasn't just about exposing Ethan. It was about reclaiming my story, my voice, my life. I'd spent years believing silence was strength, but speaking out, first to Sarah, then to the world, showed me what strength really was. It wasn't about being loud or vengeful. It was about standing in your truth, no matter how hard the world tried to bury it. Now, as I sit in my studio, brush in hand, I think about the cost of lies and the power of truth. Ethan's world crumbled because he built it on deception, but mine grew stronger because I chose to fight for what was right. Willow Creek learned something, too, that gossip can blind, that judgment can wound, but that truth, when given a chance, can heal. I invite you to reflect on this story. Have you ever faced a lie that shaped how others saw you? How did you fight back or wish you had? What does justice mean when a community turns against one of its own? Share your thoughts, because truth isn't just personal. It's a conversation we all need to have.